called a major prophet of any significance toward him, but he is called a major prophet because of the size of the book that bears his name. Ezekiel was also a prophet that experienced supernatural visions and messages from God. He was also handpicked by God to deliver some tough messages to the people. He was to speak God's words whether the people received him or not. Turn me up just a little bit there, Harry. Just a little bit more volume for me. So he was required to speak tough messages, and he was charged also, Grace Center, with speaking to a rebellious group of people. People that wanted to do what they wanted to do. As a matter of fact, in verse number 11, it shows us that God tells Ezekiel to go and speak to the people, and whether they listen to him or not, do what I have told you to do. He was to obey God, and he was to speak truth, no matter if the people received the message or not. And even here in the text, we see this is what God is commanding him to also do. The Bible seems also to show Ezekiel in this vision, and while he's in this vision, and in verse 15, he goes to this river named Shabar. And as he's by this river, Grace Center, he's at this river, and he sat there for 7 days. Quietly, he sat there for 7 days. For 7 days, he observed. For 7 days, he noticed. For 7 days, he was watching. And during this time, he was also overwhelmed by what he saw. He felt similar to God as far as how God felt when God was trying to speak to a rebellious group of people. He felt just like God. These rebellious and sinful people. He saw their behavior. For 7 days, he sat there observing them. And he saw how rebellious they were. Even Jeremiah, the other prophet, he also was charged with preaching and teaching to them, and he delivered them a message. They wouldn't even listen to Jeremiah either. So now you have Jeremiah's contemporary. You have Jeremiah's boy, Jeremiah's partner, Ezekiel, who is charged with doing the same thing Jeremiah tried to do as well. And that was go and preach to a rebellious group of individuals. He was charged with preaching to a people that has pushed God to the side. So for 7 days, as Ezekiel sat among them, he observed their nature as well as their behavior. Now the question is this, Grace Center. The question is, why did he sit there for 7 days? Why sit there for 7 days observing the people? Well, in those days when people would pass on and die and so forth, it was customary that people would mourn for the individuals and so forth for a certain number of days. If someone were to die for a certain number of days, they will mourn over the individual. So in essence, as Ezekiel is sitting there for 7 days, he is mourning the spiritually dead. Teach, Pastor.
Amen. Yes.
These individuals were spiritually dead. So just like the people, when they had a physical death, individual would mourn their death. So here you have Ezekiel for 7 days mourning their spiritual death. his heart was breaking for a group of people who did not want to experience the goodness of God. They don't want to experience, Grace Center, what we just experienced a second ago. They don't want to experience any of that. And Grace Center, our hearts should break for the lost. Yes. Our hearts should break for the misguided. Yes. Ezekiel here in the text was mourning. He wanted the people to say yes to God. He wanted the people to turn their lives over to God. He wanted the people to turn around their way of living and now live for God. Well, although Ezekiel was in mourning, Grace Center, he sat there quietly for 7 days. He just sat there quietly watching the people. He didn't move too quickly, but he was taking his time. He didn't act in waste. He took his time and he sat there and he observed and he watched the people. Grace Center, sometimes we have to sit back and just observe people. Amen. Watch right here. Watch this. Because sometimes if you sit back, they'll tell you everything that you need to know without you asking a single question. They'll give you the what, why, where, who, and the how. They'll tell you what happened, why it happened, where it happened, who it happened with, and how they feel about it. So sometimes before you even open up your mouth, you need to let them open up theirs. That was so nice. Let me say that twice. Sometimes, before you open up your mouth, let them open up theirs. Let them give you the backdrop to their story. Let them give you the vivid details of what happened in their lives. Let them tell you how they feel about it. Ezekiel sat there for 7 days and he did not even open his mouth. And you would think that since he's a prophet, since that's what he do is open up his mouth and speak for God, that he would have done it quicker. He would have said something with him being a prophet of God. But for 7 days he sat there, he didn't say anything. And why did he say anything earlier? Well, he didn't say anything earlier. It's because he was restraining himself. And he was also waiting on God. Yeah. Sometimes, Grayson, you have to wait on God. You can't speak too soon. You can't jump too soon. You can't act too soon. You just have to wait on God. Maybe if Ezekiel went too early, he would have caused a little bit of chaos and caused some things to be tilted in the other direction. But he was waiting on God. And when you read in verse 16, it says that God has now given him the go-ahead. God has given him a word. And the word is that God was making him to be a watchman over the people that he was watching. His job was to be a watchman over the people that he was watching. If you're taking notes, the name of the sermon, the subtitle today is, Who Are You Watching? Who are you watching? God has now given him his assignment. Watch this now. For 7 days, he sat there and he was in mourning for the people. But God now comes in verse number 16 and he gives Ezekiel his assignment. So this shows us right here, Greg, this shows us that if you have a tug at the heart about something, God will confirm it. Amen. If your heart is tugging at you, God will confirm the tug. Ezekiel, he he felt the tug in verse number 15. But God confirmed the tug in verse number 16. In verse number 15, Ezekiel was in mourning for the people that he was observing. But in verse number 16, God spoke to him and he said, you know what? This is what I want you to do about what you are observing. Grace Center, if your heart is tugging at you about something, God will confirm it some way or somehow. He'll either give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. He'll confirm the tug at your heart. But God goes further here in verse number 17, where it says, watch this, in verse number 17, it says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. So here, watch this. Here God, he gives Ezekiel his assignment, and his assignment was to now be a watchman over the people. All right? His assignment was to be a watchman over the people. Now, in those days, a watchman, it was an individual that would be like on a rooftop or a city hill or on a watchtower, and their responsibilities were to watch out for riots, fires, possible intrusion and danger and so forth. So if they saw danger coming, the responsibility of the watchman was to sound the alarm and let the other people know that, hey, danger is coming. That was the job of a watchman. Yeah, they would sound the alarm if they saw impending danger. So when God appointed Ezekiel to be a watchman, what God was really doing, in essence, he was assigning and appointing Ezekiel to be a spiritual watchman. Watch right here. If Ezekiel saw danger coming in the lives of the people, his job was to sound the alarm. Let me say that again. If he saw danger coming, attacks coming from the outside, and things happening with the people that they needed to hear a word from God, if they're doing something they should not be doing and headed towards danger, Ezekiel's job was to sound the alarm. His job was to be a watchman over the people. If he saw danger, his job was to sound the alarm. It is not the time for him to be quiet. That was 2 verses ago. He was quiet for 7 days 2 verses ago. He's in a different verse now. He has an assignment now. He has an obligation now. That's to sound the alarm when danger was coming. And Grace Center, whether you know this or not, Ezekiel is not the only watchman. I'm a watchman. You're a watchman. We all are watchmen. And if we see someone headed in the wrong direction, our job is to sound the alarm. We don't have to be quiet. We don't need to be quiet. Our job is to sound the alarm. Let's have a history class here in church. Paul Revere, he was tasked with going to Lexington, Massachusetts, and to ride through the town and warn the people that the British was coming. Yeah, he was trying to warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock that the British were coming. He rode through the town saying the British are coming. The British are coming. Yeah. In other words, he was almost like a watchman himself. You see, our job is to warn the people. And we need to let the people that Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. That's what our jobs are. Our job is to sound the alarm. And because we see a tragedy taking place. We see people headed in the wrong direction. But our job is to sound the alarm.
Amen.
All right. And Grace Center, watch this right here. Watch this. As a watchman, we have 3 responsibilities. 3 responsibilities. That's to wait, to watch, and to warn.
Yeah.
I'll say it again. That's to wait, to watch, and to warn. All right? To wait, to watch, and to warn. Just like Ezekiel did when we read, he sat there and he was waiting until the time was right. He was waiting on God to give him the go-ahead. And once God gave him the go-ahead, he was obedient. So he was in a waiting period. But also, what he also did was he watched the people. Before he spoke, he was watching the people. So he waited, he watched, but the next one is, watch this, the other responsibilities is to warn. Yeah. Our responsibility as watchmen is to warn. And sometimes warning people can be confrontational.
Say that now.
Warning people of impending danger can be a little bit confrontational. Because there are going to be some people that don't want to hear anything you have to say. There are going to be certain people that think they know more about what they're talking about than what you are talking about. But don't forget what a watchman does. A watchman sits up high and they see impending danger coming. They know that the enemy is coming and he's coming swiftly. So people may think they may know what they're talking about, but since you already see it, because you have spiritual insight that the world does not have. They think they know what they're talking about. But what the enemy has done is he has blindfolded the world, and he have them thinking one thing, but it's really something else. See, we have spiritual insight, and we know what's going down. We know what's about to happen. We see impending danger coming, and our jobs as watchmen is to sound the alarm. But the world are blindfolded. The enemy has placed the world on the edge and has convinced them that it's okay to live on the edge. It's okay to live on the edge and continue to do what you're doing. It's okay to continue to lie and continue to steal and continue to cheat and continue to manipulate and continue to deceive and go ahead and have sex before marriage. Just wait 90 days before you give up the cookie. Hey, Some of y'all got that. I know it's recorded. And I said it, and I'm not taking it back. God told Ezekiel to warn the people. Now, what would happen to Ezekiel if he didn't warn the people? That's a fair question, right? What would happen to Ezekiel if he did not warn the people? Well, let's look at verse number 18. It's right there. There's an answer. It says, watch this. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. So God is saying, Zeke, I need for you to warn the people about their behavior and about how they're living. And if you don't, there is a consequence behind it. And that is their blood is going to be on your hands. Now we are a teaching church here, so let's use proper hermeneutics, which is the interpretation of the text. Let's break it down. Let's exegete the text here, okay? Now watch right here. Proper hermeneutics is God was speaking specifically to Ezekiel at that time to speak this message to a certain group of people in that area. Right. At that time. But using proper hermeneutics or the interpretation of the text, the principle that we can pull from the text, that is that if God tells us to do something and we do not do it, God will be disappointed in us. Amen. That's how we can pull what God is saying, because he's talking specifically to his prophet, specifically to his man of God, specifically to this major prophet to speak to these specific people right here. Yeah, that happened thousands of years ago, but right now, today, as we read the text, how we can apply this very text right here is that if God tells us to speak something at a particular time, to a particular person, or a particular group of people, our job is to do it. And if we don't do it, he'll be disappointed at us, and maybe that person's blood will be on your hands. That was good right there. Man, that was good. So watch right here. We are to speak to people and warn people of impending danger. Now, is everybody going to listen to you? Nope. Not everyone is going to pay you any attention. They're not going to do it. But what happens to you and the people that you warn? Verse 19 gives us that answer. Watch right here. It says, yet if thou warn the people, or warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. So here God is telling Ezekiel that if you warn the people, and if they don't listen, it's not your fault.
That's right.
It's not your fault. It's not. No. I mean, you may act right with that. It's not your fault if you warn the people and you tell the people that danger is coming and they do not listen to you. God will not place that on you. You see, warnings always come before destruction. Amen. Yeah, before there is a destruction, God will give you a warning. That's right. You can say you didn't know, you didn't hear, you was not aware. No, God will give you a warning before destruction is going to come. And watch this. God, he already knows who's going to receive the message and who's not going to receive the message. He's an omniscient, all-knowing type of God. He already knows if you're going to listen and if you're not going to listen. And if you were here for Bible study this past Tuesday night, we spoke about how people who never heard of Jesus on another side of the world, what happens to them if they never heard of Jesus? Well, Romans chapter 1 verse 20 gives us the answer. And that is, when they walk outside of their hut or their bush or whatever it is, when they look up in the sky and say, well, look at this sky. Who made this sky? Somebody has to have made this sky. Or look at these stars and the moon and the sun. This is glorious in my sight. Who made this? Somebody's greater than me who made all of this. God will say, you know what? You believe in me. Come on up here. You learn when you come here. Watch right here. But also, also, if the people, if you warn the people and they don't receive you, it's not your fault. But the question is, if God already know that the people is not going to receive him, why would he have us go warn people? Why? Why would he have us waste energy and time and resources and a phone bill calling folks if they're not going to receive him? Why would God even do that if he already know they're not going to receive him? Good question. He does it because he does not want to leave the people with an excuse. My God. That's a simple answer. He does not want the people to say, I did not know whatsoever. He will leave them without an excuse. But if the people do not receive your message, God says that he will not lay the charge on you. That's right. Our jobs as watchmen is to sound the alarm when we see people headed towards destruction. That's right. If we see it, we need to give them a warning. And the question is, who are you watching? Who are you looking out for? What do you see when you leave here today? What have you seen last week? What are you going to see next week? Who are you watching? Our job is to sound the alarm. And we don't need to be afraid to sound the alarm. I don't care how many bills D.C., Georgia, whoever may pass. If I see something, I'm going to say something. You know they got that at the airport. If you see something, say something. So if you see something, why don't you just say something like, no, I don't think you need to do that. No, I don't think you need to go here. No, God loves you. There is nothing you can do about it. So although he does love you, he don't like the sin and the lifestyle that you're living in. So I'm giving you a warning. Warning comes before destruction. God sent me right here to watch you. And as I'm watching you, I'm giving you a warning. Yes, Lord. I'm done. I'm closing on this little story. Y'all like to give little stories every now and then. So the Titanic. We have history class in the Grace Center too. The Titanic. We all know about it. How it hit this iceberg and it went down and so forth. You read the book. You seen the movie and all that good stuff. The Titanic. They built this Titanic Grace Center. They said this ship, you cannot sink this ship. It's not sinkable. You cannot sink what we made. We made this ship with our own hands, and you cannot sink this ship. But you know what happened? When they hit that iceberg, what happened to the ship? The ship went down. That was one tragedy in itself. But there's another tragedy in that story, and that is some of the people that was saved on the smaller boats that came off the ship. They were saved, but the boats were only half filled. Yeah. Some of the people that were saved, they had their boats. But some of their boats were only half filled. You had people jumping off of the sinking Titanic, jumping into the ocean, drowning and dying. But you had other people that were safe on their little boats going to safety, enjoying their lives. I'm going to live. I see you, but I'm going to live in my little boat. See, that's a tragedy in itself. Those boats should have been full of other people on their boats. And that's what happens with the body of Christ. We're saying, you know what, I'm good over here. I don't care about you over there. My family is good. We're living good, eating good, living good, watching good. We do all the good over here. I don't care about you. You can die on the ship that's sinking. I don't care anything about you. That's a tragedy in itself. Grace Center, who are you watching? Are you a watchman or not? people on the smaller boats were unwilling to go back and save others. Certain people in the body of Christ are unwilling to go back and save others. Go pass out a flyer? I ain't passing no flyer out.
My Lord.
Go knock on the door. I'm not going to knock on nobody's door. We have to do what God has called us to do. We have 3 responsibilities. That's to wait, to watch, and to warn. Some of us are still stuck in the first one. I'm just waiting on God. You keep right on waiting on God. We have to move from the waiting stage to the watching stage. But then after that, we need to go into that 3rd stage of warning the people. Who are you watching, Grace Center? And as you're watching them, watch right here. As you're watching them, what are you going to do about what you're watching? It's one thing to watch, but what are you going to do about what you're watching? Yeah, because if you're watching something that you don't like, sometimes you can turn the channel. And a lot of people in the body of Christ are just turning channels. You're channel surfing. Sometimes God will just say, no, I want you to do something about what you're watching. Who are you watching? You see them sinking. You see them drowning. You see them dying. You're not saying anything. I'm giving you the go-ahead to say something. You've been waiting. You've been watching. Now it's time for you to warn. I call you to be a watchman over the people. But instead of you warning them, you just sitting back waiting. Who are you watching? I'm doing my little sermon for today. I'm hot and I'm tired. Our jobs is to be a watchman over the people. But the question is, who are you watching, Grace Center? There are certain people God has placed in your spirit, and you haven't called them yet.
My God.
You haven't invited certain people to church yet. You haven't called that person and say, you know what? I really believe God wanted me to call you to see and to check on you. Who are you watching? There may be certain strangers that God will place in your spirit when you see them for you to give a word to them. God says, speak to this person. They need a word of encouragement. You don't know what's happening in their life. They may go home and blow their brains out. Who are you watching? Grace Center, we have to move from the waiting stage, move on to the watching stage, and then we need to move on to the warning stage. If you see someone headed towards a cliff, you need to warn them that there's a cliff up ahead. Because if you don't warn them, they'll go over the cliff and you'll regret not warning them. We're called to be watchmen, spiritual watchmen, sitting up high in the spirit realm by God downloading information to us to say, hey, go speak to this person, call this person, text this person, tweet this person, however you want to do it. Warn this person and let them know their way of living. They can't continue to live like that. They can't continue to do this and to do that. We're called to be spiritual watchmen. Amen. But the question goes back to, who are you watching? I'm done. All stand. The doors of the church are open.